Comfort is the enemy of progress. People love that quote, mostly because it sounds intense. It sounds like the kind of thing a guy says right before he posts a cold plunge, a 4:30 a.m. alarm, and a photo of himself pretending to enjoy black coffee. But this video is not about grinding harder. It's about something much sneakier than that. Because comfort is not always bad. Some comfort is good. A safe home is good. A calm life is good. A cushion is good. Sleeping without panic is good. That is not the problem. The problem starts when comfort stops being support and starts becoming dependency. That is when comfort becomes a trap, and that trap is expensive because a lot of people do not get poor from one dramatic mistake. They get poorer because they slowly build a life that costs too much to maintain. And most of that life is built in the name of comfort. That's the part people miss. Comfort spending rarely feels reckless. It feels reasonable. You say, I'm tired. I need this. This makes life easier. I work hard. It's worth it. And maybe each individual choice is small. Delivery instead of cooking. Uber instead of walking. The nicer apartment because you want peace. The newer car because it's more convenient. The premium subscription because ads are annoying. The upgraded mattress. The upgraded phone. The upgraded everything. None of it feels insane. That's why it works. Because the comfort trap does not look like sabotage. It looks like self-care. That is what makes it dangerous. Every comfort decision makes sense in isolation. But together, they can quietly turn your life into a machine that eats your income. And once that happens, you don't own your comfort. Your comfort owns you. That is the shift. And once you see it, you start noticing it everywhere. People think money disappears because of big luxuries. Sometimes it does. But more often, money disappears through friction removal. You pay to make things easier. Easier meals, easier transport, easier entertainment, easier mornings, easier evenings, easier decisions. And again, none of this is automatically stupid. The problem is accumulation. Because comfort compounds too, just not in the way you want. One convenience becomes a habit becomes normal. Normal becomes identity, and identity becomes expensive to maintain. That's the trap. You don't just buy comfort once. You build a comfort-based lifestyle with monthly costs attached to it. And monthly costs are where freedom goes to die. History has a version of this in every era. After World War II, mass consumer culture exploded. Homes got filled with labor-saving devices, household upgrades, cars, appliances, television, more convenience, more ease. And on paper, that looked like progress. In many ways, it was progress. But it also trained people to think that every inconvenience should be solved with more spending. Then credit cards made that even easier. Now you didn't even need the money first. You could buy the comfort now and let the future deal with it later. And that is still how people live today. Not because they are lazy, because the market has gotten very good at selling relief. That's what modern spending often is. Packaged relief. You're tired? Order food. You're bored? Buy something. You're stressed? Upgrade something. You're overwhelmed? Pay to remove friction again and again and again. And what starts as occasional comfort turns into default living. That's when the money damage begins. Because every time you remove friction with money, you train your life to become more expensive. And expensive lives are fragile lives. That's the real issue. Not morality, fragility. A fragile life is a life that needs too much every month just to feel normal. That's when your income stops feeling powerful because it's already spoken for. That's why some people earn decent money and still feel trapped. Not because they earn too little, because comfort has inflated the cost of being them. That sentence is brutal, but true. Comfort can inflate the cost of being you. Let's make it practical. Say you start with a fairly normal life. Then slowly, over time, you upgrade. Food becomes more delivery-based. Transport becomes more convenience-based. Housing becomes more comfort-based. Clothing becomes more premium. Entertainment becomes more subscription-heavy. Weekends become more expensive. Rest becomes something you buy. Suddenly, your baseline life is much more expensive than it used to be. So when extra money comes in, you don't feel ahead. You feel maintained. That is a terrible feeling. And people often misread it. They think, I need a bigger raise. I need another income stream. I need more. Maybe. But sometimes what you really need is a cheaper version of normal. Because if your life keeps expanding to absorb every bit of relief you buy, then more income will never feel like enough. Comfort will eat it. That's why comfort is such a clean trap. It does not attack you through greed. It attacks you through relief. It says you deserve ease. Make your life smoother. Take care of yourself. Why make life harder than it needs to be? And to be fair, those things sound wise. Sometimes they are wise. But when every problem gets solved with spending, you stop building tolerance. You stop building systems. You stop building margin. And those three things matter a lot, because real financial strength does not come from eliminating all discomfort. It comes from knowing your life can still function without constant paid relief. That's real strength. Can you cook when you don't feel like it? Can you wait before upgrading? Can you tolerate minor inconvenience without opening your wallet? Can your life still work if money gets tighter for a while? That is the test. Because if the answer is no, you're not living comfortably. You're living dependently. And dependent lives are expensive to protect. This is where people get confused. They think, I'm just making life better. Maybe. But you have to ask, better in what way? Better for your peace? Or better for your tolerance? Because sometimes the thing making life feel better today makes it weaker tomorrow. That's the trade. And social media makes this even worse. Because now comfort itself is part of status. It's not just nice food, nice clothes, nice apartment. It's curated ease. The clean desk, the calm morning routine, the aesthetic kitchen, the beautiful candles, the premium memberships, the soft life. Again, none of that is evil. But when comfort becomes something you perform, you start paying twice. Once for the thing itself, and once for the identity around it. That is where it gets expensive. And once it becomes identity, cutting back feels like loss. That's why people defend comfort spending so hard, because it no longer feels like spending. It feels like self-respect. That's powerful and dangerous, because now even smart people start protecting expensive habits like they are protecting their dignity, when really they are protecting a costly version of normal. This is also why raises disappear so fast. People don't always celebrate raises with luxury. Sometimes they celebrate with ease, a nicer place, a less annoying commute, more services, more convenience, less friction. Sounds harmless, but if every raise gets converted into a more comfortable life instead of a stronger one, then your freedom stays flat. That is the whole problem. Your life gets softer, but not safer. And that is a terrible trade, because safety is what actually changes your future. Emergency fund, lower debt, more margin, more room, less dependency. Those things change your future, not just a more polished present. Now, let's be fair. I'm not saying live like a monk. I'm not saying never enjoy your money. I'm not saying make your life miserable to prove a point. That would be dumb. The issue is not comfort itself. The issue is the order. You build strength first, then you buy comfort that fits inside your structure, not the other way around. That is the rule. If comfort comes before strength, it turns into a trap. If comfort sits on top of strength, it becomes a reward. That's the difference. So what should you actually do? Simple. Audit your comfort, not your luxury. Your comfort. Ask, what am I paying for just to avoid mild inconvenience? What part of my life has become expensive because I got too used to easy? Where has convenience turned into dependency? What am I calling necessary that is really just upgraded normal? That is where the money usually is, not in one giant mistake, in 10 little comforts that now feel untouchable. Then the next step, start separating helpful comfort from identity comfort. Helpful comfort is something that genuinely supports your life without trapping your cash flow. Identity comfort is something you keep mostly because it feels like part of who you are now. That second category is where people bleed money, and once you see it, you can finally start taking control back, not by cutting everything, by rebuilding your baseline, a lower cost baseline, a stronger baseline, a life that still works even if every convenience is not turned on all the time. That is where freedom comes from. Not perfect discipline, not suffering, not fake hustle, just a life that is not financially addicted to constant relief. That is a powerful thing, because then your money starts doing different work. Instead of buying comfort every week, it starts buying options. Instead of funding temporary ease, it starts building long-term safety. Instead of helping you avoid discomfort today, it helps you avoid desperation tomorrow. That's a much better use of money. And in the long run, it feels better too, because there is no comfort like knowing you are hard to break. No food delivery, no premium mattress, no upgraded phone, no aesthetic apartment can compete with real financial breathing room. That is the comfort people are actually looking for. They just often chase the wrong version of it. So here's the final thought. Comfort is not the enemy. Dependency is. And when comfort quietly turns into dependency, it starts in making you poorer without looking like a problem. That's why comfort is the trap. Not because ease is bad, but because ease gets expensive fast when your whole life starts needing to be cushioned all the time. So don't ask, how can I make everything easier? Ask, what level of comfort can my life actually support without stealing my future? That question alone will save people years.